Hi, today Great.com talks with Bridget Cook, who has been working with nonprofits in Oregon, California, and Chile for over 25 years. Bridget is the co-founder and executive director of AdelanteMujeres.org. If you haven't heard of them, they are a nonprofit organization focusing on the needs of low-income immigrant Latina women in Washington State, Oregon. If you're new here to this podcast, please press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app, because today we'll learn how Adelante Mujeres is helping Latina women and their families using different programs with education, leadership training, and how to start an enterprise. Hi, Bridget. Welcome to our podcast.
Hi, Peter. It's great to be here.
Okay, so let's start here. What does your organization do?
Right. So, as you mentioned, we're a nonprofit. We're focused on working with the Latino community, and we're in part of the state with a really large Latinx population. As I said, Oregon is known for its beauty. It's also known as somewhat of a white state. And that goes back to its unfortunately racist history. But there have been people of color here from, as long as people have been in this area. And while the scenic beauty stands out as well, so does the cultural richness, which just keeps getting better every day. So the Latinx community, mostly Mexicans from Texas, or Tex-Mexicans, moved into the area to work in farming. Okay. And then many stayed. And so it is still significantly an agriculture state in many ways, although it's now sort of a tale of two cities with a lot of high tech as well. But that has led to, to where right now the Latinx population in Oregon is 13%. In the county, Washington County, where we work, it's 17%. But interestingly, in a lot of the schools, 90% of the elementary children are Latino. So you can see that demographic shift is happening pretty rapidly. Unfortunately, right, because of a variety of factors, some the challenges that people face in their home countries, as well as the challenges they face when they arrive here as immigrants. There's, families struggle a lot. And frankly are not always welcome here. And, so just one indicator is that Latinas earn on the average 55 cents to every dollar that a white male would earn. And about half of the Latinas, half as many Latinas own homes as the white population. So there's a significant amount of work to be done. As an organization, what are we doing about it? Well, Adelante Mujeres, roughly translated, means women rise up. And so we are focused on building Latina leaders in the community so that they can affect positive change. And we do that through three core pillars. So our first is education, entrepreneurship, and empowerment. And I could talk about all of those if you'd like, or if you want to.
Please. That's why.
Sure. All right, good. So, in our education, so to see, education as the golden ticket to a better life, but not just a better life for yourself, but for the whole community as well. And so many of the families who come to the United States, they're being pushed out by violence and poverty. But what the draw for them is providing opportunities for their children, particularly educational opportunities for their children. So we have 4 different programs, starting with early childhood education, through youth programs, and then all the way up through adulthood. So that's education. And then entrepreneurship, right? One of the ways that so many immigrants get their first start is through, creating their own business. They come with a lot of drive, a lot of determination. And oftentimes that language barrier or legal status isn't as determinative as an immigrant if you can start your own business. So we have 3 different entrepreneur programs, from a lot of coaching and training on how to start a business, a regenerative agriculture program. We also run 2 farmers markets. We have an incubator space, a retail incubator space. So just those opportunities for people to really take that creativity, the innovation, the hopes that they have for their families and put that into something concrete that, of course, also helps to really drive our economy.
Okay. How long are these programs?
They vary. Like if it's a microenterprise training course, will usually be 10 or 11 weeks long, and then the coaching continues for as long as somebody needs it. In our early childhood education program, little kids could be with us. They could start when they're 3 months old and stay with us until they enter kindergarten.
I saw on your website that you offered education for women together with their children at the same time. So that's kind of unique.
Yeah, that sort of wraparound whole family model it's not new to us. I mean, it's not new in a sense. Like people know that if you want to see successful children, then it's so critical to recognize the parent's role as their first and primary teacher. And it's also so important that parents, especially parents who, maybe have a 3rd grade education and don't speak the language of the country they're now living in and are dealing with, being separated from their families. So there's social isolation, there's financial challenges. And then there's just this new system that people, don't know how to navigate. So bringing the family into that educational process is central to success. And we've seen, if you gauge families, if you gauge parents when their children are small, then they build that confidence in themselves as really being participants in that educational journey. And that's, it sticks with them. It gets more difficult as kids move into, adolescence and high school and beyond. But, children get used to feeling like, their parents are connected to that process and want to be engaged with the process. Yeah. And then the moms and dads, I mean, we started with women because we see that, it's an interesting dynamic. Before we started Adelante Mujeres, I worked at other nonprofits, and you'd have you start a class and maybe 50% of the people in that class would be women. 2 weeks in, you've got about 1/3 of the participants are women. Another, month in or so, and there's just a dwindling number that are still in the class. And it's not because they weren't interested, right? But it has a lot to do with traditional traditional norms for women. The aunt comes to visit, there's a crisis in the family, who responds? It would traditionally be the woman. So we designed Adelante Mujeres specifically to provide that support and that belief in oneself for women to recognize that, wow, this isn't about me being selfish. This isn't about me just caring about my own advancement. But if I'm feeling healthy, if I can increase my education, if I can learn some English and support my child's education, then the whole family is going to do better, right? And another fascinating piece of that is we did this informal study not long after we had started in 2002, and we found that 50% of the male partners went back to school of some sort after their women joined our program, because they don't want to be left behind. But it really does show, right? You help a woman, you help the whole family. Yeah. Wow.
Okay. So you have your own school building?
We do. We for a long time we had free space. We rented space. Now we just finished our capital campaign. We're an organization now of about 80 staff, and we reached about 10,000 individuals. And part of that is
Is that in Oregon only?
It's actually mostly just in Washington County, right?
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So there's as I said, there's definitely a significantly growing population. So we have our own building. It's not large. We still use, we partner with local school districts in local jurisdictions, local towns for a lot of our programming. But our building does have 6 early childhood classrooms and 2 adult education classrooms. And then we also have a commercial kitchen workforce entrepreneurs who want to be in food-based businesses.
Okay. Let me see. What is, I saw that you have a Chicas youth development program. Can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah. Our Chicas program has this great, we started, as I said, with adult education paired with early childhood education. But not very long into the program, we had moms and their spouses saying, help us out with micro enterprise development. We want to start a business, right? So we moved into that area. Similar thing happened with our Chicas program is the moms started saying, wow, I feel so confident now in helping my small children to get ready for kindergarten. I know how important it is to read to them. I know how important it is to help expand their vocabulary and just use opportunities that occur every day to help increase their understanding of the world around them. But I'm really struggling with my adolescent, right? With my 12-year-old daughter. So we did a little pilot project just to see, do Latina girls want to come together as Latina girls, right, on their own? Do they want to have that experience that is gender specific and culturally specific? And after an 8-week pilot project, they were begging us not to quit. And so we launched this program in 3 different schools within the town of Forest Grove where we're based. It's now in 24 schools and is serving over 700 girls. Yeah. So it's been, and we receive requests frequently for this program in other parts of the state and actually in other parts of the country. Part of the success really is that for so many of these girls, right, they've got the obstacles of they don't have role models in the school systems. Oftentimes that's changing, right? There are more and more Latino teachers, right, or principals, but it's still a very significant minority. They don't oftentimes have role models within their own community, social setting as well, in terms of where they're headed, right? Like the parents we want our kids to graduate from high school, but what happens beyond that? And we know that if you don't have some sort of continued education beyond high school, your opportunities are very limited. So having a vision for themselves, right? And how do you have a vision for yourself? Well, part of it is cultural identity, gender identity, feeling good about who you are as a young Latina. And that's a really critical piece of this puzzle. And then helping them to think, well, what are my gifts? What am I interested in? Where do I want to go? What would I like to see for my future? And when you have a positive future, then those things that, whether it's substance abuse or the boyfriend or, dropping out of school because you want to earn a little money to have nicer clothes, those things are much less interesting than thinking that I'm going to go to school, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to travel, I'm going to have, do something with my life that is going to give back to my community and really create a positive and enjoyable experience for myself and others. So those are really key components of this Chicas program, right? Again, we work really closely with the families because families don't know what that means to go to college. How do they support their kids getting into school? And then another significant obstacle is that college in the United States is very expensive. And even if you're able to get a scholarship, or sometimes community colleges have opportunities for kids to study for free for those first couple of years, but just the transportation of getting there and living is very expensive. And so we also put a fair amount of emphasis on helping kids get scholarships, and we have a 3-to-1 match program. So if girls are able to save for every dollar they save, we were able to match it with $3. That's a state and federal tax credit program that we participate with. And that likewise, you build that habit of saving and knowing you're putting this away for your future.
That's great. Great. Yeah. So you have good results with that program.
We do. We have great results, and we have 100% graduation rate, and that is nearly unheard of for Latina girls. At this point, I can't say exactly what it is. I think it's probably around 80, 82, 85 or 87%, but to have 100% of girls graduating from high school and going on to college. Just a quick story I'd love to tell you about this one young lady, Daniela, who her mother was in our adult education program. And so we got to know Daniela when she was in, I think, probably first or second grade. And when we started our Chicas program, she was one of our very first Chicas. So she started in third grade, which is where we began. She was living in a household with 3 other families, her family and 2 others. And so you can imagine trying to concentrate on homework or just what that environment was like, the level of stress in that space, which of course is quite common for immigrants across the world. She says that what she really learned in Chicas was the importance of having that vision for herself and going to college. And she also knew that it was going to be really challenging to do that, because just like for so many of the other girls, they know that they're not going to be able to depend on their parents for financial support, because the family just doesn't have it, right? Even if they're working 2 jobs, that's just, paying for the shared house that they're all living in, putting food on the table. So she got involved really early as one of our leaders in the Chicas program, a volunteer in the Chicas program, supporting younger kids as they came along. Throughout her high school, she would work at a restaurant, and then in the summer, she would pick up another restaurant job. She also participated in a paid internship program that we have in the summer. And now Daniela she's in her second year in nursing school, determined to continue that path to her dream of being a nurse. And she's in her free time, she supports freshmen in college who are also on the nursing track. And on weekends, she comes home and she does her homework, but she also is still working. She works at a rehabilitation center on the weekends. So I could tell 100 stories of young women who have come from a situation where, their parents didn't graduate from grade school, right? Very, real struggles financially, but have supported her education, really believe in that, but needed our support service to help understand. So what does that mean? And then Daniela now is, she's a role model for other girls coming up, and certainly for her siblings, is a role model as well. Great.
Yeah. But I see that you don't only target Latina women, because you have a county civic leaders project and the Beyond Trauma program, immigrant solidarity project. So it's
right, Peter. So I mentioned our education programs. I mentioned a bit of our entrepreneurship programs, and then we have this whole other area that's leadership and development and advocacy.
And I see you have a regenerative agriculture program.
Right. Yeah, that's part of our micro enterprise program. But people who go into our ag program, sometimes they're wanting to just grow food for themselves and learning about how do I work with the earth rather than pouring on the chemicals to kill this and then pour on more chemicals to support life in this other way. So with our Washington County Civic Leaders Program, building leadership, and whether that's leadership in the home, leadership, in your extended family, or leadership in the community, is so central to creating an environment where people can be successful. That it can be leadership on boards and commissions and running for office, and we support that through our leadership programs. This particular one with the Washington County Civic Leaders has been an opportunity for us to support a goal of the counties. We have cities, counties, and then the state, right, is how it's structured here in the U.S. And the Washington County leadership has tended to be very white, and until recently very male, and they recognized that they really weren't providing the services, or they weren't responding in the way that they would want to their underrepresented communities. So this is a way for leaders. We've had, I think, folks from 17 different countries. I mean, they're now living in the United States, as well as from the LGBTQ community, as well as people living with disabilities, participate in this program. And they kind of learn about, how does the county operate and where can I plug in? How can the county use the vision that I bring to further environment that supports everyone within the county. Yeah.
How do you think your organization will evolve in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, we continue to grow. So we started out with a few staff members, and our response really is we always have our ear to the ground in terms of listening to what the needs of the community are. And at this point, I think I mentioned a little bit that our programs are as impactful and effective as they are because they have responded to the interests of people, right? Yeah, we're looking at, the challenges. People come without the language or without the education, or they don't know the system. But we're really building on individual strengths. And when you build on people's strengths, then they create that positive future with you. So we are expanding our Chicas program. We're expanding our micro enterprise programs. We're also growing our leadership and advocacy programs to further more civic engagement.
Do you think it will expand to different counties and states? Or?
Yeah. Our goal at this point is we're looking at, so we're in this exploratory phase, or we'll be soon into this exploratory phase of, we already expanded a little bit outside of the county and most likely outside of the state as well. Yeah.
Okay. So we're running out of time here. So it's okay. So if somebody wants to help, what can they do for you? I mean, what action steps can they take?
Sure. Well, of course, there's always, check us out on the website and sign up for our newsletter. Pay attention to what we're about. But I think, even more importantly, is debunking the myths about immigrants, right? In the United States, and I imagine this is the case in other places as well, we still have this sense of you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So that's one myth. And that's sort of the myth of the self-made man, self-made person. But anybody who is successful, we have all had help along the way, right? We've all had someone who has supported us. And if they've been in a position to support us, it's because somebody else supported them. So that's a critical piece. And then when I talk about immigrants, if you think about what do we value? Like we appreciate people who are risk takers. We appreciate people who work hard, who are ambitious, who have a vision. And yet that's who comes to the United States as immigrants. And yet rather than being valued for that and welcomed for that, there's this, oh my gosh, you've come to take my job, or you've come to change my culture, right? And I'm not happy about that. And it's, we know that it's fear-based. And so a lot of what we do, right, as an organization is we tell stories so people can connect with that individual and see, wow, that person is really here because they care about their families and they care about a better life for everyone around them. They want to contribute. So that's a piece of it. If you're worried about immigrants keeping wages low, well, then join us in fighting for a $15 minimum, which is really low still. It might sound like a lot, but it's really low. And also fight for things like overtime pay, right? And paid family leave for everyone. So rather than, blaming somebody else, let's come together and say, okay, how can we create conditions so that all workers have a living wage and a healthy and a safe place to work? And then just lastly, I would say that we know that climate change and global unrest leads to further immigration, right, to migration. And right now with COVID, just wreaking havoc across the globe, if you are in a country that has the capacity to support the global South, or has the capacity to support countries who are lacking the vaccines, talk to your elected officials, because we're going to see so much more immigration coming to the United States if Guatemala doesn't have a solid vaccine program, if Bolivia doesn't have a solid vaccine program, right? If Mexico doesn't, and the same is the case across the globe. So, we used to always say, think globally, act locally. And I think now with the internet and so forth, we need to continue to do both. We think globally and locally, and we need to act locally as well as globally, and recognize that, we're citizens of the earth, and we're citizens of the universe. And so our care just needs to extend beyond our small borders.
Great. So everybody who's listening, join La Lucha and start donating to this great cause. Okay, so I'll wrap it up here. For you listening, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app. That will show the algorithms that this is an important conversation, so more people can learn about the importance of helping and empowering Latina women in our communities. Thank you, Bridget.
Sure, thank you, Peter.